Okay, just a second. There we go. Yes, we are recording. So I just put a link into the chat, and that is just a little link for anyone who, if you in the course of this evening or later on would definitely like to move ahead with, the air monitoring sensors. And moving forward with that, we're trying to get everyone kind of have a listserv together of everyone who will be working through this. So, it's just we're going to get everyone's names and information, as well as, we would like to know if you would need help installing the sensors, or also, if you would need, financial support for an air monitor. So that is, a little survey that uh, you know, we've got that's in the chat, and I'll put that up again, into the chat and remind you before the end of the evening. But yeah, you can fill it out at any time. Feel free to pass it along to anyone who wasn't able to make it today. Again, we are recording this information session, so that will be made available to whoever wasn't able to make it this evening. And also, yeah, feel free to share that far and wide then once we make it available. Yes. So yeah, just to now officially start it off, yeah, my name is Christine Lejeune. I'm with Great Lakes Neighbors United. You may have heard of us. We're based out of Port Washington, Wisconsin. I live here close to downtown Port Washington. We've been working on a number of educational programs and activities surrounding environmental concerns that have to do with the data center construction in our city and in the surrounding town and area. So this is actually part of that because there has been a great interest in monitoring air quality. And we are really fortunate this evening to have with us Dr. Brittany Keese from Healthy Climate Wisconsin, who I've met along the course of our journey of attempting to figure things out, and really get going with the air quality monitoring program. Yeah, Great Lakes Neighbors United is now has 501(c)(3) status, so we're really, really happy about that. So please do feel free, if you haven't already, check us out at safeportwashington.com. I'll put that into the chat as well. And if you have any questions in the course of this evening, there will be a Q&A at the end. So we'll have Brittany present. She's got some fantastic information about our region and the air quality monitoring, importance of air quality monitoring. And and then we'll launch into a Q&A. So let's see, get Brittany up here. And Brittany, hopefully you can share your slides. You should be able to.
Oh, we're looking good. Looking good. Hold on, let me just get it to the slideshow. And we're there. Awesome. Well, thank you everyone for joining us on your Thursday evening to talk about community air monitoring. As Christine said, I'm a doctor of physical therapy. I'm the Clean Air Policy Manager with Healthy Climate Wisconsin. So we're a statewide nonprofit of doctors, nurses, public health workers, therapists working to address pollution or prevent new large sources of pollution uh, from our air, water, land to improve the health of our patients, communities, and families. And so this is us. And we are about 5 or 6 years old. Welcome all health professionals and really appreciate the work of community leaders such as Great Lakes Neighbors United and others that are working alongside us, and grateful for all of you here. And you will learn why, because we need everybody. Um, the agenda or goals, the presentation will go pretty quick. Want to just share background on air monitoring, air quality in Wisconsin, give you an example of an air monitoring project, give you a snapshot of Ozaukee County. You often don't know what you don't see, and we really don't see air pollution until it's really, really bad. Like we think wildfire smoke, but that's not the only time it can be bad. Um, Options for community air monitoring, tools available, just snapshots of other communities that have started to step up too, and then open it up for conversation. I do want to do disclaimer. I have no financial disclosures. I am going to share like what the experience that I have had and kind of weigh pros and cons with everyone. So no incentives for any of these products. Also, I'm not an air scientist, but I do think like this hopefully will help you all see yourselves in this, right? So I was a physical therapist that just and actually local elected official at the time and a mom of this like little infant and here we went. So let's keep going with the slideshow. Air monitoring in Wisconsin. So super important just to appreciate for regulatory monitoring, what the DNR does, and the monitors they look at to enforce the Clean Air Act and to really protect us all. Only 29 out of 72 counties have regulatory air monitors. And so here's a picture of during the colder months because ozone monitors are only online between April and October. So just really appreciating there's a seasonality of coverage with air pollution and with monitoring. And so here is a picture of what I looked at last night. So you can go to the Wisconsin DNR air monitoring dashboard and you can see like kind of their real time. And so this is a screenshot of like 10 o'clock last night and looked at the AQI. And interesting, Port Washington and Ozaukee County was in a moderate, and even relative to Milwaukee and Sheboygan. And so that there's the basic AQI chart. It's important to familiarize yourself with it. Folks who have health conditions have a lower threshold where they might get symptoms triggered, so lower threshold with exposure. So it's important to educate folks who are more vulnerable on the importance of checking these and checking like the hyperlocal readings because when you look at air now, such as what's on your phone, that's like looking at big and broad versus more local and local trends. So if you talk to the DNR about your air monitoring and the results that you find or concerns, they'll say, well, air pollution has been getting better in Wisconsin. And largely that is accurate. You can see from 2001 kind of through 2022, there's a downward slope. This is PM 2.5 or soot. And every time there's a big notch, that's when like standards got stronger. So like that works. But then I just want to flag that like from like 2018 to now, it's like starting to go the wrong direction. So that's PM 2.5. And then this is ozone. And these are slides from the DNR themselves. And so it goes down and then you can see it starts to plateau and the progress is plateauing to reversing. Okay, air monitoring case study. So, my story of how it all started. I was on city council 2020 to 2022 trying to like, let's help the environment. And we were able to get this proclamation for like climate action passed. And this professor called me and he's like, Counselor Keys, that's going to be really hard. And I'm like, well, of course it's going to be hard. And he's like, but I really don't think you're going to be able to do it. I'm like, well, that's not the attitude I was hoping for. So I was like, can you please tell me more? He puts together this report. And what the report shows, so Rock County, that's where I'm from, calling from Beloit, Rock County, south central part of the state, compared us to Dane County, which is state capital, Madison, and then Winnebago County in Illinois, just south of us. So how the pollution all of a sudden at 2017 skyrocketed for us. And where this came from was largely two sources. And so this is an EPA flight tool. I highly recommend everyone looks at their county with their large industrial pollution sources. So if industry passes a certain threshold, they have to report on themselves. But I was like, okay, that's a big number. What does it mean? Well, Chicago, this is comparing to Chicagoland, and all of their industrial polluters were under R1 gas plant, Alliance gas plant, West Riverside Energy Center. So they reported over 2 million and then in 2022 and they were more than all of Cook County and then in 2023 it went up even more and we're reaching 3 million metric tons of CO2 reported by our resident gas plant. So it was really concerning because our public health metrics aren't great. I talked to the DNR. We really only have one ozone monitor in town. It's on the far west side. And the DNR said, if you're concerned, you could start monitoring. And I was like, oh, okay, how? And so um, I was actually supported. I was a member of the organization that I work for now, and they were able to get me connected with an organization called Thriving Earth Exchange. They support community science projects and connect you with the research fellow. They connected us with an air science lab to like crunch our data. I didn't try to be anything I wasn't. I was the person who went around and made like talk to our community partners. And we worked with two local high schools, outdoor environmental center, service organizations in some of our neighborhoods that are higher risk. And so we had over 6 monitors loaned to us from the EPA. And I think the EPA still might have a loan program, but they typically only do it for like 2 to 3 months. We got them for 6 months. So it was a short period of time. But during that time, we had PM 2.5 or soot pollution readings for the first time. And this is a screenshot that shows what we were often seeing. And it was like our trends were worse than like Milwaukee and Chicagoland. And we're like, this is not great, but you can't make big conclusions. But still, the trend was concerning. From the 5 months of data, this is looking at kind of the trends. It was just showing that like we were higher than what we should be, but also appreciating we had 5 months and you need like 3 years of data to get a real annual standard. So I'm just, when you do air science, they want lots of data, but just know and be empowered that a little bit and knowing like what's going on right now does make a difference. Um, Also say, have to emphasize like, there's other air pollutants out there I learned that like aren't really even being monitored. So Beloit in southern Wisconsin is 95th to 100th percentile for toxic releases to the air or hazardous air pollutants. So those are reported, but they're not regulated and monitored. So um just everything kind of compounds and we're only human, right? So just the importance of really and as we've been engaging with the DNR and shared that our concerns, they keep telling us we don't have a problem. And it's like, we do. Look at our chronic health. Well, you'll see. So here are, you can see as our asthma burden. This is the environmental justice screening mapping tool that's no longer available, but we were in 95th to 100th percentile for asthma burden. So like that all does overlap. So we were able to get some funding for permanent monitors, and with that data, a separate entity ran a report, IQ Air, and in 2024 found Beloit to be the most polluted regional city in the US. And because of us, we went from 0 particulate matter monitors in the area to we had like 4 full time, right? And so because there was 4 going for the whole year of 2023 that were largely from our study and folks engaging that we were able to be considered in this comparative study. Now, this didn't make city leaders happy or industry or other people, right? Or the DNR, but it again just kind of reaffirmed like, hey, wow, this is flagging a problem. Um, because the decision makers didn't really act, we created a coalition focusing on like addressing this, and we're still working on it. But we are working on it together as a group because we all know that clean air saves lives, and this coalition is working towards a future where we all have clean air to breathe. All right. So take a deep breath and air quality in Ozaki County. So the American Lung Association just did their 2026 State of the Air report, and um, again, only 29 of 72 counties in Wisconsin had regulatory monitors, so that's all that could be considered. And Ozaki County did scored with the ALA's score. You got an F with ozone and did not pass with particulate matter. And for whatever reason, they could not get the full score for the annual particulate matter or soot pollution. And I just wanted to show you just with the failing grade, like what that looks like of how many days we're in different zones with high ozone and where the trends have been over the years. So again, you can see how it's gone down, leveled out, and kind of eked back up. All right. So then resources. Where do you start? So there's lots of different places you can start. You're like, ooh, I think I need to be monitoring the air. So you can start with just Googling Wisconsin DNR air quality monitoring. And so you're about to have and you'll find this kind of page. When you see that, you're in the right place. And then they'll talk about different sensors. And this information is important because it you'll see they do have a lot of good information and resources. The air sensor toolbox for researchers, that'll take you to the EPA. They have webinars, they have different toolkits, they have a lot of information. If you want to set up like a focused study, it's important to think of like, do you want it like geographically gridded, like is it more is that your goal to get, or do you want to look around different pollution sources, or do you want to be putting your monitors around where folks are most vulnerable, so schools, nursing homes, hospitals, like kind of appreciating what the goal of your study is. If you're looking to get pre and post data, well, then you want to be mindful of what sites you might want to do pre and post data around. Also appreciating that most that for these monitors, it's largely looking at PM 2.5. That is a regional pollutant, but monitors and people closest to the source are impacted the greatest. So you can get at that DNR website, you can get access to these links. From there, me just, okay. So they did set up a bit of a roadmap for everybody, and the DNR recommends, and this is what they recommended for me, Purple Air. And this is because they've done a comparative study that they've developed this correction factor after like co-locating regulatory monitors and purple air monitors. They've created if you're going to analyze your data, a correction factor specific to Wisconsin climate. So that just means they'll just see your data is a little bit more credible because you're able to apply like the research that they've done. Um, and Next slide. Okay, so here's the correction factor. And then also just want to flag that under that equation, you can see this link to Purple Air Study Quality Assurance Project Plan. And I flagged this because you're like, oh, Brittany, I like haven't even held a monitor in my hand. Well, yes, but I want to flag the quality assurance piece because once we did our project and we were like, oh, we partnered with an air science lab and they analyzed our data and we have our conclusions and we have concerns and we went to the DNR and they're like, well, what was your quality assurance? And I was like, say what? And I was like, maybe good job. Hey, at a guy. And they really were very critical of our data, and it was largely concerns kind of discredited, pushed aside, and then they proceeded to set us up with a meeting on how we could improve our quality assurance of the data that we got. So I am sharing this with you from the front because as you're doing this, it's going to be very important to like standardize if it's going to be part of a study or you're going to analyze the data that you might take forward to the DNR, that you ensure that you mount them per like DNR recommendations or the book with Purple Air. And kind of like have a documented checklist, probably a like documented maintenance list of just like making sure the sensor's not getting cobwebs or stuff every blank amount of time. And then also having somebody that's willing to like go through this quality assurance is pretty long, but that's something that will help increase your study's credibility if you do engage the DNR. So, community monitoring options, what I've worked with, again, I get no kickbacks. I'm not promoting any specific project or, excuse me, monitor beyond like this is what I've worked with. After IQ Air, they found Beloit to be the most polluted regional city. They're after a community gets this designation, we like to support them. So we'll send you 3 air monitors. So we got 3 IQ air monitors, and they are also up. But the purple air ones are the ones that we have bought just for the like hopes that they could be seen as more credible and useful in our studies. So to learn about Purple Air, what's nice about them is they're like relatively affordable because like the regulatory monitors are 120,000, and then you need an air scientist to maintain them, and that's the whole thing. So these are more accessible for us. And what's really neat is they take measurements every 10 minutes. So they have this online platform where you can go. So if you go to Purple Air and then you go to the three little bars, and click on that, and then you go to map and real time map. Then you can zoom in to your location and see, like, okay, where are the closest air monitors? And so here, this is, north of Milwaukee County. Milwaukee does have a fair amount of Purple Air community monitors registered. Um, but you're seeing Ozaki County does not have much. And so definitely in around Port Washington, Saukville, there is a big, I'll say, opportunity to fill in those gaps with some Purple Air monitors. And then anyone could go to the Purple Air map and at any time, click on those little circles. And when you click on the circle, it pops up and you get a graph of the last 3 days of what the trends have been. And then Purple Air also archives data. So then you can often access, and this is where I look at the air scientists and labs and the students, they can go to Purple Air and request, data as long as these monitors have been online. Here's a monitor from IQ Air, similar price point. IQ Air does have a nice, it's called Air Visual app. And there, all the monitors, you can also register Purple Air to this platform, but also IQ Air monitors. But if you don't register the Purple Air through this platform, it won't automatically come up. So here is from the IQ Air, again, looking at Port Washington, Saukville, lots of opportunities there. And last night with PM 2.5, y'all were looking better than the combo. Okay, so want to share other communities are with you. So when I first started working with Healthy Climate Wisconsin, um, Superior, Wisconsin was facing a large gas plant proposal right adjacent to one of their local neighborhoods. And being in Beloit, I had been engaged in this, know the impact. I went up there, and it was before I worked for Healthy Climate Wisconsin, shared a lot of this story, kind of big gas plant 5 years down the road. And yeah, so since then, they have realized they have one of the only oil refineries, I think, in the state, and they also don't have adequate air monitoring. So they reached out since this last 2 years, where when I first met with them, they reached out to Thriving Earth Exchange and have a formal project. And it's called Monitoring Air Quality for Superior Future, and they are doing a similar as what we first did. The City of Madison went bigger. They have these Quant AQ monitors with solar on site, but they did set up this large hyper local network in Madison. They got a large grant from the EPA in order to get hyper local pollution reports. And they partnered with Love My Air Wisconsin, and so they platform their monitors, and it's another nice like app and way you can interface. And so again, just showing how hyperlocal like Madison is with their air monitors, and then the opportunities for Ozaki County. Um, so where are we right now? The State Line Coalition, we are still going forward, community education, elected official engagement, and from monitors, this was a screenshot from last night. We now have over 20 purple air monitors in Rock County, 3 IQ air monitors, and still have that regulatory ozone monitor. So, and that's like really since I first learned about the problem in 2021. So, and this has been more of a group effort. Rock County Health Department applied for a grant and really worked to disperse the monitors throughout the schools in Rock County. Yeah, and so with that, I thank you all and can open it up for questions and answers.
Wonderful. Thank you, Brittany. Thank you so much. I think we're all really appreciative to that really deep dive into, all of the types of air monitoring, things that we can, things we can do, and also the way it looks across the state as well as in Ozaki County. I think someone was just had a question, or I think Tracy perhaps put the answer in there. Yes, about if there's anything in Superior. Looks like there may be purple air monitors up there. But you did mention the different types of air monitors, and it seems like for those reasons that you mentioned, just with regards to credibility and validity, the purple air monitors are the ones that the DNR seems to recommend that we would use in this case. I'm just thinking about, in our case, for the purposes of Port Washington, our specific, specific goal of monitoring this very kind of hyper local area, but then also extending out. I guess purple air would also be the best one as well.
I would think so, because your goal is to engage the regulators and to engage your decision makers and get cleaner air. And I apologize, I'm going to share my screen one more time because with respect to Ozaki County, I had a slide intentions. I didn't get the slide in there, but I just got it up. But I went to the flight tool and just also want you to see this is where you are right now before data centers. And this is your industry reporting on themselves. And as of the latest data, the Port Washington Generating Station reports over 3 million metric tons of greenhouse gases every year. And so this surpasses Cook County, and you're right in line with Rock County, basically because of one source, which is the methane gas plant on the lake. The other source is the metal place, but I mean, relatively, it is much, much less, but you already are relatively overburdened with air pollution from this fossil fuel burning source, and then everything else will be compounding.
That makes sense. Okay, excellent. Thank you for that additional information. Yeah, we have, I think, one of the questions has to do with someone who's listening in from Superior. And then there's another question specifically about campfires. If maybe the person from Superior has a bit of additional information on that point.
Yeah.
Jenny. Oh, sorry. Come on in. Yeah,
Oh,
sorry.
yes, I'm a member of a small group of citizens here in Superior. Um, we'll call ourselves the AMOS Group, Air Monitoring of Superior. And as Brittany was saying before, we also got this Thriving Earth exchange grant. And so we've been working with two scientists on that. We talked to the city council, and they were willing to pay for a couple of monitors for us, which we haven't received yet, but they're a little bit more advanced than the purple air monitors. There are a number of purple air monitors in Superior that individuals have, but we are in the process of receiving a couple of monitors that will do PM 2.5, PM 10, and nitrogen oxides. And so we've received part of the shipment, but we're still waiting for the last part of it before those can get set up. Again, one of our major concerns is we do have a number of industries, but as Brittany said, we have the only oil refinery in the state of Wisconsin, and feel that there should be some monitoring done because of that. I mean, most states that have oil refineries have regulatory monitors around them, maybe not just a single one, but multiple ones around those refineries. And so we're hoping to have a chance to have that happen up here, or if not that, to get maybe more at least community-based monitoring. I worked for the University of Wisconsin for over 40 years, but during that time, I also was a limited term employee for the DNR and ran a number of monitors here in Superior, um, and also for a number of industries here in Superior. Most of it was what was called total suspended particulate monitoring, which were larger particles. And as it was realized that the smaller particles were the ones that are most dangerous, the monitoring went from total suspended particulates to PM10 and then down to PM 2.5 monitors. And I said we did have a number of those monitors here in Superior. It seems that, well, when the PM or the TSP standard from EPA was eliminated, most of our monitoring went away because of that. The other thing I think seems to have changed is that there doesn't seem to be as much concern, I think, about locating monitors near possible sources as it used to be. As I say, I ran a number of monitors. We have a number of grain elevators that are located on the waterfront that get shipments from trains and then load it onto ships. We had a very large coal facility that got coal from Montana and Wyoming and would load that onto ships and ship it down to Detroit Edison. There were monitors located around those facilities in the past, and then all of a sudden, again, all of that has disappeared. And we just feel like and I don't really think it's the DNR. I think it's EPA that has kind of changed how they monitor or where they monitor.
Yeah, I can speak a little bit to that, and also like so glad that you're here on this call with us, and cheers to your amazing work, and you sound like a very valuable part of that team. Wealth of knowledge and experience, and bring up a really good point, well, lots of good points. One of them is there are um there are air monitors of different grade levels of like there's that more entry level you could say like purple air, right? It's more economically achievable, but still gets the DNR sees it as like decent at least kind of, but they will not regulate with it. They will not use it to make any decisions. They're like, good job. Um, but it's my understanding too that there are better monitors that are kind of like in the middle. But the DNR still won't do anything much with them. They only make decisions based on regulatory monitoring and what they get there. But super great information because you could, if you have like a grant or other funds or write a community benefits agreements with a new large polluter, you could say, hey, I want fence line monitoring with this $10,000 monitor every blank miles to ensure you maintain compliance. So I think it would be great if you don't mind sharing the type of monitor that's looking at those numerous pollutants, because that could be something that could be written in if they have a different funding source, especially.
Yeah, that would be fantastic, Brittany. Yes, I was actually just thinking as well. And I think that also speaks to one of the other questions we have as well about, you know, so for example, smoke interference if people are having bonfires or, burning stuff in their yards, would that interfere and kind of, how are the monitors? Yeah, what is the best kind of placement for them? Someone had a question about that as well. Since we are, concerned specifically about, in our case in Port Washington, the data center, pollution, but, overall in general.
Yeah, so great question. So when you get your purple air monitor, you will have instructions. Read through those first, and where you put them up, typically it's about like 8 to 10 feet up outside. It's ideal. It needs 180 degrees excess of like air around it, so you don't want it like in a closed-in corner. Um, it ideally not in direct sun. So like the north side of the house is ideal, but this, you do not want it around like your dryer vent, your furnace, your charcoal grill, anything that might be uh, emitting your bonfire side of your house per se, because it will pick that up. But I mean, if it does pick it up, it's not the end of the world. It is kind of what you're breathing. But if you're looking, that could then lead to this outlier. That if you were to do statistical analysis, that they might just pluck that one off because they do when they do the quality assurance, the big outliers they kind of pluck off. Mhm. So I have mounted purple air monitors to get them up because when I got them, like, we just need to start getting data. Okay, also, if you're to get a purple air monitor, you have to order the cord separate. It's silly, but it's a bummer when you get your monitor, you're really excited about it and you don't have a cord. So make sure yeah, you got to get the cord. Um, and so then you have to, when you're looking for a place outside, like your house or building, you have to have Wi-Fi access and then electricity. And so I've mounted them with zip ties to my gutter up high, and like it's worked, and it has worked. Then we recently around Earth Day worked with Love My Air. They came to the school district of Beloit. And the maintenance guy drilled those puppies right in the side of the school. I was like, yes, we did. Yes, we did. So we have like five more elementary schools with purple air monitors in Beloit, and they just drilled them right in. So there's different options for mounting them. And then you have to register them with your Wi-Fi, and then register them to like Purple Air site. And then they will start just taking those every 10-minute readings.
Great. And I just wanted to share, so we kind of touched on that. I just wanted to share the website here, screen share that. I know when you go onto the website, there are various air quality sensors. And is there a specific one? You know, you mentioned, of course, making sure to buy the power cord in addition, but is there a specific kind of type of monitor that is specifically, you know, particularly good, or is that we should make sure that we all kind of purchase the same, type of monitor from Purple Air? Just wondering, when you look at the website, as someone who's never done this before.
Yeah, great questions. So the ones on the right are indoor monitors, and like indoor air pollution is outdoor air pollution plus everything we have, all the products, all the things. And so and all our dust. So the one on the left, the far left, like that Purple Air Flex, and then there might be like next gen, and the only difference I see is like SD card, yes, SD card, no. So that's kind of like talk to your techies. I am not a good I think we did go with the SD card, but
Okay, great. Wonderful. Yes. And that's a really good point about the indoor versus outdoor. Of course, in this case, we're definitely talking about outdoor air monitors. So yes, that makes a lot of sense. And oh, that's actually, yes, a couple of questions as well, about, I think, drilled in. I think, Brittany, you mentioned if they are installed, you kind of zip tied them as well. And then also, that's actually a really good question. That was something I was thinking about prior to our meeting. Have you encountered that people get discounts on these monitors by grouping together, or say if we as GLNU purchase them, I don't know if you have any experience with that, or possibly that would just be something we have to look into.
yeah, I mean you can always ask for like a nonprofit discount or something else. I haven't encountered it. If you do encounter it, let me know.
Will do, will do. Wonderful. And then let me just see if there's anything else. There were a couple of other questions earlier on, about kind of, yes. And yes, I see Mike Jenkins has a question here about, what information, let's see. Yes, how about, have any communities been able to leverage the air monitoring information to drive positive change with polluters when information is public of the location of the air monitoring stations? Um,
Great question. We're still trying to figure that one out because they also know they don't have to move unless there's regulatory data. So the DNR, the like and the advertised utilities like public education, awareness, check before you go outside. Know if you like need to wear a mask. And I'm like, let's work towards a world where we don't have to wear masks outside. We can do it. We can all have clean air. So the State Line Clean Air Coalition does hope to engage some of local industry to see if they have a lot of local industry actually does have like community support engagement funds. If you just go talk to their HR people, you could be like, "Hey, we're doing this like fun science project," and not making sure so it doesn't come off like threatening to them, right? But like, hey, yeah, so we might see if they could support us with some of what we're doing because we're also doing air filters and purifiers in our schools and helping fund our school district stack albuterol program because we have some of the highest asthma rates in the state.
Excellent, excellent points. Thank you. That's a really, and it also sounds like as well, the Thriving Earth Exchange is another great resource from what both of you have said up in Superior and in Beloit, Brittany. That's another fantastic resource to potentially partner with as well.
Yeah, so if you coordinated a group of that wants to like lead a study, like a formal community science study, then you get the support of like a PhD fellow, which is awesome, that helps coordinate the project. And I mean, just brings that level of legitimacy. It's an actual study that you're running. Um, yeah, and I mean, I do think like the Superior example is a great one of their community leaders were also concerned, and then working together with your community leaders to get higher grade monitors. And then I think somewhere may or may not be put near or by fire stations and different things like that. So I mean, that's not necessarily leveraging with the polluter, but there are opportunities to partner with these types of projects with air monitoring lower than that regulatory level.
Makes sense. Yes, I think kind of the bottom line right now, what most of us are intending to do is to at least get them installed and get them up and running. And then, so at least that we're, collecting data, along the guidelines, and, according to the, installing them, according to, the instructions. And then, yeah, potentially, bolstering that with, yeah, some sort of partnership like that with Thriving Earth, for example. So that sounds fantastic. I think one of the main issues is to get things up and running and get them installed. And I know that I believe there was a question as well, kind of about just the location. What types of properties would you see most purple air monitors on? Publicly owned spaces or individuals' properties. Considerations about where monitors should go. Like you mentioned, a potential grid. On the other hand, it may just be good to get as many people involved as possible. Or, what would you recommend, or where do you usually see these installed?
Yeah, so great question. Again, it's kind of back to the goal of your study. We have a bit of a mix. We have individuals that were involved with the State Line Clean Air Coalition that bought them on by themselves and put them up on their house. So there's on individual residences, then there's some on outdoor education centers, still at the community centers. We have and then we have them at local schools. I will say if it's like a governmental type entity or building, their Wi-Fi network can kind of they have a safety barrier that can make it difficult for that constant interface. So we just ran into that when the City of Beloit actually early on was willing to put it on their public works building, but we never broke through the IT Wi-Fi issue.
Oh, good to hear you have a strong Wi-Fi capacity there.
Protection.
But
Yeah.
yeah, exactly, exactly. Great. Yeah, so excellent. Yeah, it does sound like it's then a mixture kind of locations, and those who are willing to engage, in at least at first installing them. Yes. What other questions? Just kind of scrolling down here.
Yeah, I see.
Uh,
What's the best app to check air quality? So is it Air Visual? Oh, gosh, I gotta see. That's the one with IQ Air. It's pretty solid. And then Purple Air, I haven't found an app for that, but I love their website. Like I just go to Purple Air Maps. It's like one of my like favorite ones that I always go to. Maps real time. And then if you, I'm also most people are probably a little more techie than I with some of these software things. So if you find things, please share them and better apps. But because I'm and also new things are always coming. So open to recommendations as well. But yeah, then Love My Air has a nice platform, but also those monitors have to be registered. So it's really like Purple Air will have all Purple Air monitors that are public. Um, and then the Wisconsin is just regulatory. And then what you get on your phone now is just regulatory. Like the weather app is just regulatory. So it's like if you want that more hyper local, you need to go to one of those apps that will platform those IQ Air or Purple Air monitors.
Okay, makes
I
sense.
see from Mike Jenkins, have we discussed monitoring program with the DNR to see if they might agree to support regulatory monitors? So we have. Every year, they have a review of their air monitoring network plan. And actually, I meant to look at this today, where they are in the process. So, working backwards, they have to submit every year their air monitoring network plan to the EPA by July 1st. So, working back, they have to have a public information meeting before that, and then they have a public comment period where you just email one of the DNR staff that's posted. You can email them thoughts. And we have been engaging with them for over 5 years, and we are repeatedly told they have no intention of expanding their network. They do not have the funds. The EPA has repeatedly, I guess the federal government has repeatedly cut the funds to the EPA network program. And so they literally do not have the funds. And so all their plans continue to shrink the network in Wisconsin, which is not great for regulation and monitoring for us. Um, but it's really important that we continue to elevate the concerns from different communities on like, hey, we have ozone, but we don't have a particulate monitor, and like these are our concerns, and we really like you to do this. And so, they also are not used to having a bunch of people turn out until like 5 years ago. Now, and then there's like 40 people turning out. But like if we get a lot more people turning out and then letting our elected officials know we're turning out and they're not responding, could hopefully maybe push for like, hey, how can Wisconsin maybe backfill this network and this funding need in order to meet, the regulatory monitor shortage that we really have. Because Superior absolutely should have one. I mean, I feel Rock County really should have one. And I'm sure there's other communities, Ozaukee County and elsewhere that could use one.
That's really excellent to know because I know that in looking at the DNR website, we were wondering about potentially working with them, and it's good to know that at least we should contact them and make them aware that there is, a desire or community concern about this, even if they're unable to actually do anything due to budgetary constraints at the moment. But that is an excellent point about still informing them regardless. And then there's also a related question: is the EPA Air Now app becoming less reliable?
I guess I can't really speak to that. I know there's good people on the inside still trying to do the things, right? I guess less reliable with the network shrinking, they're relying more on averages and modeling versus the actual readings, right? Because I kept going back, well, how do you know we're within attainment? We don't have a monitor. And they take like the geographical averages of the monitors closest to you and other things and throw it into a model, and then they get the decision if you're within attainment or not. Or like kind of that's how they get your ongoing um, readings too from the closest monitor. So if that like the closest one is a county away and then it closes and then it's like the closest one is like 5 counties away, then it is not as specific to your area.
And kind of along the same line, there's a question from Sarah about, she's heard that if you have a monitor in the front yard and one in the backyard, or one like even on top of or next to each other, they can pick up different readings. Could you speak to that? Is that true or?
So it's my understanding that like the purple air monitors can like are more sensitive to like peaks up and down, but their overall trends are pretty solid, and more comparable um, to regulatory monitors. So it's more like the trend. So you might see some big peaks, ups and downs. Not to get too, worked up or concerned about that all the time, but like if it's a concerning, it's like the trends that you look for, and. But yeah, I mean, someone drove their diesel truck down your street and that one's in the front yard. And you have a bunch of trees in the back. We did see differences of like tree neighborhoods that had great tree cover, trended lower than ones that were, more exposed to high traffic. We also saw like the cat ears of like in during elevated local pollution during commute times, where it would go up during the morning commute and then up during the evening commute and then come back down.
Interesting. Very interesting. I also wonder too about if you would happen to have an indoor air monitor as well as outdoor air monitors from Purple Air, if you would see the same types of spikes, or, if there's just accumulation indoors at different times. I know I have like an air purifier and it has like a little air quality monitor there. And I don't know, it's probably not very accurate, but there are certain times in the evenings that I do notice it spikes, as far as the air quality. So it's just, yeah, good
We're all
question.
going to be community air scientists, and I love it.
Yes. Um, and then we did have a question. Let's see. Let's see. Yes, really good question. Also from Mike about. Sorry. Do we think we are better off with purple air stations or pool resources to acquire higher end monitors that have regulatory credibility? What you know, yeah, kind of everyone kind of sourcing their own, or should we somehow try to pool our resources with maybe fewer monitors that are, more expensive and maybe more accurate or credible?
Yeah, so great question. We've wrestled with this as a coalition. Um, as I said, those regulatory monitors are about 120,000 off the bat, and then you have to have a air scientist maintain the station. And if you were able to achieve that, then maybe the DNR, and it was up to their quality assurance, would accept the data into their network. That's like where we are right now. Because we've tried to solve this Rubik's Cube of like, oh my God, well, we need a regulatory monitor. How can we get it? Where can we get the funding? And now we did have a petition going to have ask our biggest polluter alliance to put up the funding just for the upfront cost. But then the problem was, well, who would host it and who would maintain it? Because the DNR is like, absolutely not. We don't have the people. And so that's kind of that effort has kind of quieted because we don't have that capacity either. And then we've also wrestled with like, do we go with the like mid-level monitor? For us, we didn't necessarily see the pros at this point, but that's it. Every community is different, right? Like Superior has a specific source that they're looking to comprehensively monitor as best as they can, most effectively. And our group is strapped for resources. So then we didn't end up pursuing the mid-level. I know that MKE Fresh Air Collective is looking at a mid-level monitoring system network. They're getting 3 to 5 for the Milwaukee area. And I could get you Langston Veridan's information, or he has shared some of that mid-level monitor data, what they're getting. But yeah, it's all good questions, and I don't have the answers. I think every community is a little different. But yeah, I would say you want pre-data. It wouldn't really, I would say you just start monitoring to get that pre-data. I mean, now you have construction dust, so it's not like a pure pre, but like you'll have you do have some hours in the day where you shouldn't have so much. So you should be able to see those trends too. But I would, yeah, definitely get it going before.
And that's an excellent point you made, Brittany, as well. It sounds like as soon as it goes online, that data will start to be collected and can be accessed, continuously, even months later, even from the very point that it's gone online from the start. Correct? So it's not like that data like will suddenly somehow be expunged from a database or something. It sounds like that data is able to be accessed, um, well, you know, into the future and into the past, correct? So, if
Yes.
once it starts going online, that data will not kind of disappear anywhere. It's
And
always
if
able
you
to be accessed.
Well, I mean, if you plan to have it online for like 15 years, you might want to just check with Purple Air. How long are you holding it? Because I think like, after a while, like after 3 years of a specific, I'm not sure. They
Mhm.
just might, or they might have to dive deeper into archives. But yeah,
Okay.
good questions.
Okay. Excellent. Excellent. Yeah. And then I guess there was just another question as well, kind of a few questions from Amanda. It had to do specifically with the site, about, diesel generators potentially being run in case, if there's no power source at the data center, and then also potentially the moderate, a designation that we saw last night, if that would be due to, diesel light generators and so forth.
It could be. I mean, the diesel generators, they emit pollution. They emit known carcinogens. So yeah, it could contribute. I'm not sure what's running overnight. And then sometimes there you also get like that inversion where pollution during the day and then it cools off, then the pollution settles at night. So yeah, that's a great question. Yeah, I don't know. It could definitely contribute. I think it'd be difficult at this point, just from that reading, to you wouldn't be able to say cause and effect for sure, but you could start identifying concerning trends.
That's true, and that's a good point about why it's important to continue monitoring over time. And I think with as many monitors as people are able to obtain, or as many people who would like to monitor, yeah, it's the volume and the longevity of that data as well. So, yeah. Wonderful. I don't see any further questions for Brittany. Brittany, I think we have them all. Don't think I've missed any questions.
I did see one about dark skies and light pollution, and I want to say with some of these large stationary sources, it lights up the sky like you wouldn't believe. I'm not familiar on the regulatory guidelines process enforcement with light pollution, so I mean, former DNR employee, anyone else wants to jump in here because this is relative to data centers, gas plants, coal plants, on that process. So I think there should be a way that you can, well, if you look at local ordinances and if there is a light or a outdoor lighting ordinance, then I think you would go to your local municipality. But yeah, I don't know if anyone else has more on that, but that is a concern. And what is the legislative solution? That's a great question. I know that there's a lot of lighting, like local ordinances addressing light pollution, or there's more potential there with like the planning and zoning and the ordinance rights that you can do at the local level. Would be really interested if other communities or states have worked to address it on a larger level.
Excellent. Thank you for taking those questions as well, Brittany. And I've also put in again our sign up sheet link. So if you are interested in being on a listserv, getting a future email about the air quality monitoring that we're going to be setting up, we'd love to, keep everyone kind of updated. Know who's going to be monitoring. Work with everyone just to see where we're all located to kind of coordinate that. That would be wonderful. Feel free to share that link with anyone who was unable to come tonight, and we will have the recording available as well. So we'll blast that out to everyone once the recording is available. And yeah, unless we have any further questions, we can let Brittany go for the evening.
I will call the DNR tomorrow and see when the public comment period opens for their air monitoring network plan, and then have them sometimes just feel free to call them. I've talked to two different DNR folks in the last 2 days, and the engineers I talked to were lovely. So if you have a question, their numbers are posted. You might have to leave a message, but they do call you back. But I will call and ask about that ear monitoring network plan, and I'll share it with GLNU, so then you can kind of blast it from email list and
Yeah.
other places. Yeah.
Great. That's wonderful because I do think it's important for us to keep up the pressure for them to know that we, all would like to have this support. And yeah, that's really essential that they know that. So wonderful. Thank you so much, Brittany. I really appreciate it. And yeah, we will blast out that information along with the recording and again, the sign up sheet. So, and please feel free to always contact us either via Facebook, social media, our webpage, contact info at safeportwashington.com. Feel free to always reach out to us with any questions you had about our event tonight, anything further you have, any further questions for Brittany. We look forward to hearing from you and working with you on the air quality monitoring setup here. Thank you. Have a good evening, everyone. Thanks.